The particular focus of this present VLFM 8th Prerna Manch will be on leadership and leadership to take us and to transform us into the next decade. So this morning when I just woke up and opened the television to have a glimpse at the news, so the first news was that our honorable Prime Minister, he was going to three places in one single day, and that too for sorry, for preparing for the COVID vaccine and to see how the logistic and everything will be taken forward. So the subtle message that is here, that a leader is always leading from the front, and he is leaving no stone unturned to get us out of this pandemic and out of this COVID situation. And I am also reminded about one of the very famous saying by one of the very great philosopher, a Chinese philosopher, who said that when you are in a crisis, when you are in a war, actually, you have to lead by example. You have to lead from the front, and you have to take each person, each of your citizen as your own son, and as you have to teach, you have to take them as your own people, and definitely they will lead you to the deepest of valley. They will fight for you wherever you go, wherever there is a need. And in fact, we also have in our own history, in our own great history, that Chanakya or Kautilya in third century, he has the seven critical factors or seven critical people or pillars of any society or any great kingdom. And in this, he is particularly focused on the role of each and every type of leader, be it Amatya, the Mantri, the Purohits. So each and everything has been very beautifully and very detailed. It has been taken into consideration. So with this focus, we have to, with this renewed focus and renewed responsibility, we have to get into the new decade. And we have the privilege of today having two great and eminent person from people from industry who have led from the front, who have who have taken huge steps to improve our manufacturing and to improve what we are trying to achieve. So let me just request first Mr. Yadugirish Rajpal, who is from Ashok Leland, and he has had decades of experience in this in the manufacturing industry. A very short and brief profile that I could capture is he's a mechanical engineer and an MBA, so a golden combination of engineer plus MBA. And something very important about him is that it is not just a task, it is not just a role, or it is not just a job for him. He's passionate about developing and maximizing people to give them best learning opportunities. Uh, Definitely, he's having deep functional experience, and with his about 3 decades of experience, and he has been honored with several and certification, awards, recognition, and a very known name in industry. So, sir, I would request you now, if you, first of all, thanks from each and every participant who is here from the VLFM community, that you have taken the time to address us, to give us your vision and your experience about and how do we take India forward. So, sir, over to you. And I think so that everybody will be very eager to listen and to hear from you, sir.
Shailesh, thank you for your kind introduction. Straight away set the expectations so high that I'm feeling a little nervous. That's the kind of introduction you have given. And first of all, it's my privilege to be addressing such a wonderful gathering as this. In fact, so what I have tried to do is put few things that I have experienced, and I have read few things, and something which I have implemented in my career. I have put, in few slides, which I would like to really, share. A while ago, we were discussing about Atmanirbhar. One of the most important things about Atmanirbhar is about believing in ourselves. So the subject that I'm going to really talk about, talks a lot about that self-belief. With that, let me try to project, my, presentation, which anyway is going to be incidental. So, however, I'll try to make it as, free flowing as possible. Please let me know if you're able to see,
We can see
Shailesh.
your presentation. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
We can see
presentation.
your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. So, leadership and courageous authenticity. First of all, why did I choose this courageous authenticity as a subject for today? So many a time, people think that leadership is all about a position. It's nothing to do with position. You don't need to be in a particular position to be a good leader. One of the competencies a good leader must have is courageous authenticity. It's a very simple competency. One, you need to be authentic, and two, you need to display the courage to be authentic. So, what exactly is courageous authenticity? See, there are several definitions. I particularly liked this one where it says demonstrating the ability to take tough stance, to broach difficult subjects and behave in congruity with your beliefs. So here, I would like to stress a bit about congruity with beliefs. What does it mean really? See, knowing is not doing. Many a time we can read many things in books, we can listen to the speeches of people, but as long as we do not do it, then that knowledge is of no use. So if we have a belief, regardless of the situation that we are in, we need to stick to those beliefs. That's what is all about this courageous authenticity. So many a time we don't even understand who we are. The talk that I'm going to give at this point of time will, deal with a lot of reflection. Some of the pictures that I have put really will kind of provoke us to think about ourselves. How much of time as leaders or as professionals or as individuals we devote in understanding ourselves. It's very, very important for us to reflect. So when you reflect, we all get to know about ourselves first. So knowing who we are and understanding who we are and what is the worth of us as individuals, which again leads us towards this, Atmanirbhar, is one of the most important aspects of courageous authenticity. So courageous authenticity has three key elements. All these words we hear day in and day out: honesty, trust, vulnerability. Oh, be honest. Oh, you trust me. I'll come to vulnerability at the end because there are certain misnomers about leadership and vulnerability. I'll come to that little later. So when we talk about honesty, what comes to our mind really? See, it is only about being truthful. Honesty is all about doing right things when nobody is watching. We drive on Indian roads. We all know when there is red, we have to stop. Many a time, if we don't see the cop around, we tend to break that regardless of whether it is red. We want to really break that. So honesty is all about doing right things when nobody is watching. Policemen should not really control us. That control should lie within ourselves. That's what this honesty is all about, really. It sounds very simple. But there are, in today's fast-paced world, many situations that we encounter where at times honesty takes a beating. We may say, oh, my intention was not that, but the circumstances made me do what I did. That will never ever allow us to be courageous. That is not a thing. Regardless of, see, these are all the excuses one tends to take. Situation is made by human beings. Situation does not arise on its own. We all are the contributors. So that's where it's extremely important for us to inculcate this as a habit of doing right things when nobody is watching. The second key element, I'm sure you'll all be intrigued to see a formula. Some of you may have already heard about this. The trust. What is trust actually? See, what happens is in a conversation, if the familiarity between parties is limited, moment the one party says, you trust me, actual natural response from the other person, though he or she may not express it explicitly, hey, I'm guarded, man. You're asking me to trust. I don't know you enough to trust you. So in that sense, David Meister and Charles H. Green have written a book. They have tried to decode what this trust is all about. So you see a formula here. Don't look at it as a mathematical formula. First, let me explain what this formula of trust is all about, and then probably at a later point of time, if you have any questions, you're free to write to me. I'll be more than happy to really answer your queries. See, trust has 4 components fundamentally. C stands for credibility. R stands for reliability. I stands for intimacy. And S stands for self-orientation. So what exactly do we mean by credibility? I may work with a particular organization which has a huge reputation. I may have graduated from best of the engineering colleges. I may have done, MBA from a good institute. These are all the credentials for me, which will be a facilitating factor initially to determine who I am in the perception of people. Actually, there is a gap between the perception and reality. I may have best of the credentials. However, if I'm not reliable, the credentials that I carry will mean nothing. What I mean by reliability is whether it's a personal life, professional life, the other party can rely on me unconditionally, whether it is in terms of a project or any personal help. I may have all the resources with me, but if I'm not reliable, it's not going to help. I'll give you a small example. You have a doctor, MBBS, FRCS London, maybe postdoctoral, from some of the best of the universities. That will make the doctor's credentials very, very good. Very good. However, what is if he has conducted 100 surgeries? How many of such surgeries are successful? We'll talk about reliability of the doctor. No matter whether this doctor has passed out from a great institute or a number of a 2-tier institute or very ordinary institute, what he delivers to his patients consistently will talk about reliability. So I'm sure you and me will not go to a doctor who holds best of the degrees but has the reputation of not conducting surgeries well. We will not go. So as much credibility is important for us to really depend on someone. Reliability and consistency are extremely important. So what is this I? Intimacy is not about whining and dining together. Intimacy has 2 components. We all need to really keep this in mind. One is empathy. The other one is transparency. Empathy. If I were to be really, see, it's very easy for us to say, oh, putting yourself in somebody's shoe. Many a time we forget to remove our shoe and get into somebody's shoe. You can never get into somebody else's shoe without taking your shoes off. So empathy calls for first removing our shoes and then and only then getting into somebody's shoe to understand what empathy is all about, what that person is going through and how I will be able to respond to him or her in the situation that he is in. That's what is empathy. See, what is transparency? So if I prescribe a medicine to one of my patients, do I look at the well-being of this patient or do I look at the kind of money that I make by selling this medicine? So if I step back and ask myself, do I prescribe the same medicine to my close family member? That's what transparency is all about. I need to be transparent. So what is this S then? Why is it in denominator? S is all about self-orientation, which is like, my agenda, I, me, myself. So that is the reason why it's been put in the denominator in this formula. The lower the self-orientation, the better it is for the relationship. In fact, whether it is a relationship between two companies, two individual and a company, whatever it is, orientation has to be self-orientation has to be as low as possible. Having said that, even if you consider this as a mathematical equation, it can't be zero. Then trust becomes infinity. That will never happen in our real life. So lower the self-orientation, the better it is for the trust quotient. So I would encourage all of you to go through this book called Trusted Advisor by Charles H. Green and David Meister. I read this long ago, when I started my career in, sales. Really, fortunately for me, the time when I started my career, I had one of the best bosses I can think of, really, who taught me the right things. In fact, at that time, he told me what trust means to our customer, and he also made a very, very profound statement. If you're able to sell a wrong product to a customer, it does not show your ability to sell a wrong product to the customer. Actually, it's all because of the trust the customer has in you and how you have breached that trust. So don't think yourself to be smart if you have really if you managed to sell a wrong product. That was the time, when many people used to tell me, oh, if you can't make it, you fake it. Or, if you can't convince the customer, you confuse the customer. But fortunately for me, my boss, right now he's in Pune, my first boss, taught me right things and he recommended this book. And it's a wonderful book. I want you to explore this book, which talks about how trust makes or breaks a relationship, really. So a trusted advisor, you can touch base with me later. My email ID is available. I can talk about this book in greater detail in case you think you require some more inputs. So the second element is trust. And what is this vulnerability? Again, in many organizations, people really think that they are leaders because they are in a particular position. And to add to that, they all think that showing vulnerability is really make me look mean, make me look small. Angela Camboris, she's CEO of Evolution Consulting Agency. She says vulnerability is a power tool in an emotionally intelligent leader's toolkit. I'll give you a few examples. See, if you look at the technological changes that are happening, in today's world, it's very, very fast. what we are learning today, 3 months down the line, probably it becomes obsolete. Let me tell you, I started my career when salespeople were not given laptop. We used to have one desktop in office, you know, and once you come back from the field, there used to be a long queue. So obviously, the skills that we all had when it comes to this computer and all was very limited. You must be wondering why I am giving this example. If you ask me even today, if I have to really open 5-6 different Excel sheets and crunch data, that's not my cup of tea. Now, as a leader, if I think, oh, as a leader, it is very, very important for me to make people believe that I know it, but let me get the work done. Yeah, I go and tell one of my team members, I am very busy. Can you do this for me? So once it's okay, twice it's okay, third time, moment my team member figures out that I don't know what I'm talking, he's not going to respect. So what is the solution? It's perfectly all right for me to really identify the strength of the team and my own strength and leverage both these strengths effectively. So if I'm vulnerable enough, I will tell him, hey, this is not my cup of tea. I don't know. Actually, I need you to help me out. There's nothing wrong in reaching out to team members, because in organizations, many a time, CEO need not know everything. A vice president need not know everything. But what they need to know is to leverage the strengths of these individuals who will be able to make things really work for the organization. So my personal ego, my self-orientation will have to really come down to be vulnerable. It's not a weakness, because unfortunately we live in a culture where where people hesitate to say, I don't know. It's very unfortunate. You're not expected to know everything as a leader. It's very important for you to understand the strength and how to leverage the strength of the team. The sum total of your team's strength is your strength. That's where many leaders make mistakes. They just want to sweep things under the carpet. So it's perfectly all right to be vulnerable, to reach out to the team and tell them what strengths they are and how you want to leverage. That's what vulnerability is all about. So vulnerability actually sounds like truth and feels like courage. Go back to the definition we talked about. We mentioned about courageous authenticity. See, courageous authenticity plays a huge role. It may be a simple, it may look like a simple, word, but it is very profound when it comes to leading a function or leading an organization or even leading a situation in a family. So it's extremely important. I would like to recollect a story which most of us would have read, Emperor's New Clothes. And when somebody takes this emperor for a ride, when he is walking without clothes, a child which demonstrates courageous authenticity is able to make the king realize what he is wearing or not really. So I want to really ask you a few questions. Have you ever felt in meetings where some senior of yours asks a question, you have the question answer with you, but you hesitate? Then somebody else gives the same answer, he or she gets appreciated. Then I feel, oh man, I should have really answered this question. I had everything. So why does that happen? I'll go back to that Atmanirbhar. So courage is extremely important, and we need to believe in our own ability. Once we start believing in our ability, courageous authenticity can be built over a period of time. So, many people tell me, In corporate world, it's very difficult to demonstrate courageous authenticity because my boss expects me to agree with whatever he says. Then to such people, I have few questions. All of us talk about these jargons which are mentioned in competency framework, questioning the status quo. Great competency. Now, how do you question the status quo if you lack courageous authenticity? But we all talk about these competencies. So courageous authenticity is the most fundamental competency to be an effective leader. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult. So I would like to give an example to, from my consulting career. See, before I moved to industry, I was also consulting in one of the big four firms, really. At the time, one of my, I may not take the name of the customers here because of the confidentiality thing. When I went to the customer's place, the top guy wanted us to, give a report in a particular manner. I was leading the engagement. I had to put my foot down and tell him, no, I won't be able to do that for ABC reasons. And first, I had to make him understand that report actually is nothing. The reality and report, there is a huge gap. Unless as a consultant, I bridge the gap between the reality and the report that you're expecting, then I wouldn't be doing doing justice to my profession. So first I had to explain to him, even if I give the report the way he wants it, how it's going to really affect him. Many a time we hesitate to tell our senior leaders what are the repercussions of wrong decisions. Do not hesitate. Have the courage to tell, supposing in your organization, if certain decisions are taken in the meeting, which you feel very strongly that it's going to affect your organization, muster the courage. We live unfortunately in a world where, once things go wrong, yeah, I knew this. What's the point? If you knew this and if you did not tell this. So coming back to courageous authenticity, it plays a very important role in every walk of life. So we all have to be courageous enough. Otherwise, you can never ever question the status quo. Why is it important? See, particularly in manufacturing, what used to be a shop floor, how a shop floor used to look like 20-25 years ago and how it looks today and how it is likely to look tomorrow. There is a quantum jump. Technology is changing very, very rapidly. So when we know that technology is going to invade all of us, then we should never try to stop the inevitable. It's very important to face, very important to prepare ourselves for the possible eventuality. So my limited point from this very short presentation is build courageous authenticity in each one of you, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a personal situation. This is something which is going to really make you count for the organization or the personal situation you are in. So with that, there's one slide which I had put, which I want to really come back. We were talking about vulnerability, where we had to express the limitations of our own self. But when we express that limitation, in my experience, these three things that I have put will definitely improve. The first thing, collaboration. When I go and tell my team members, this is something which is not my cup of tea, there'll be people who are ready to help me. We can collaborate and do many things, and there will be compassion. People are able to understand. It's not about task always. It's all, see, there has to be a very good balance between task and people. So compassion is really the people side of it. And when there is collaboration, when people really demonstrate compassion, then the contribution automatically follows. So all these qualities that a leader needs to have will only bring us success and nothing else. Uh, Thanks once again for the time that's been given to me. Yeah, though I would like to really talk a lot about these things, keeping time in mind. I want to really, conclude this. And Shailesh, back to you. Thank you very much.
Sir, all thanks. It is our privilege to have you. We are hearing you out in last 20, 30 minutes. I never realized that it's already 12:30. It was so interesting and insightful. And definitely, sir, what you have highlighted is a very important aspect. And we may be having this kind of thought in our mind, but we have never, we might not be able to express in such explicit terms. And the formula that you gave is really, really very insightful. And with this, sir, I think so that we have now it is time to move to the other speaker, eminent speaker, which have we have with us Mr. Jeevan Bhatt, and a very short introduction, although he doesn't need any introduction. People are well aware of his accomplishments and his contributions to the society and to the printing industry. So I'm not. Yeah, here you go. So we are very privileged to have Mr. Jeevan Bhatt with us today, and he is our guide, our mentor. He has been supporting the VLFM initiative ever since it started, and he has written over there that he is an ardent follower, ardent student of Professor Soji Shiba, and we all are a follower, a disciple of Professor Soji Shiba. So Mr. Jeevan Bhatt is currently an external director on the board of Technova and many other leading companies. He has retired. He's an ex-CEO from Technova Imaging System, and by education, he is a prominent polymer scientist. So he has done a great lot of things, a great lot of contribution in that field. And as I've already mentioned, a guide and a mentor to the VLFM graduates. And it is his vision and his mission. He made his mission that to promote the VLFM, to take VLFM to the next level and help Indian industry in its pursuit to becoming a manufacturing powerhouse. And sir, all I can say that we all from the entire VLFM community, we all thank you for taking the time out and inspiring us with your speech, and we all are eager to hear you out. So, sir, it's over to you now, and may I request you to just take it from here.
All right, very, very, very good afternoon, my dear friends. It was a pleasure to hear Mr. Girish. I think what he shared with the group is so important. I will just share with you some 30 years ago, a book came out called Return from Punjab. It was written by the first chairman of Hindustan Liver Limited. That is the first Indian chairman of Hindustan Liver Limited, Mr. Prakash Tandon. In his book, he says beautifully that he has worked in every part of the world and he has met the professional managers, and he has no doubt that Indian managers are at par in terms of competence with every one of them. The only thing he found regretting is that Indian managers lack what is known as the authentic courage. He has beautifully shared that I wish the Indian manager had a courage to walk into his boss's office and say that, sir, I disagree with your opinion, but I will do if you insist. So I fully resonate with the presentation, the subject of presentation of Mr. Girish. I think that is the single most quality a leader requires. So thank you, Girish. It reminded me something I read 30 years ago.
Thank you, sir.
Now we move to the presentation which I have to share. I am going to wear a cap of a visionary leaders stuck in this COVID crisis. And what I think if I was a CEO of a company today, I would do it. So it is a hypothetical situation. Don't connect it with what's going on in Technova or anywhere. There may be a lot of similarities, but it's just coincidental, okay? Okay, today is the 8th Prerna Manch, VLFM community. I think it's a fantastic initiative, my dear friend. We need to motivate each other during these difficult times. I think the biggest support you can give anybody is to give a motivation and positive hope, okay? So it's a good program. I am very happy. So today I am going to have a prayers for all of us to be virus safe. We hope that December is hopeful. And we need to have three major strengths with us: Sankalp, Sanyam, and Sangharsh. Okay? These are the words I think our Prime Minister has shared with us. And I think it is our duty to do that. So, okay.
Next slide.
Okay, let me move to the next slide.
Avinash, sir, can we move to the?
Already done.
Okay, it is not yet visible. Now
Okay.
we can see it. We have the second
I
slide.
don't know. I think it's coming from Bangalore, so it is very slow. Okay. Okay. So, like I said, that if I am thinking like a visionary leader, once in a lifetime comes a circumstance which tests your beliefs, fundamental beliefs as a leader. And I think today is a biggest challenge for a leader what to do next. Okay. Are you getting the next one? Okay. Got it? Hello?
Got it, sir. Got it, sir.
All right, I'm going to ask a couple of times to convince myself that what I'm doing is right, okay?
Definitely, sir.
Right. So I think suddenly when everything shutdown was announced, a reality was hit, okay? And not a single manager who is strategic otherwise was prepared for this event, I think. You have to be truthful that none of us expected this, okay? Although some of us may have read the projections by Bill Gates, we never believed him. So no company on the earth was prepared for this reality. Some of the things all of you know, I'm going to run very quickly. The plants were suddenly shut down. Okay, we never had any plan what to do if suddenly everything comes to close. Obviously, most managers were worried that what is happening to supply chain, because all of us live on a supply chain flowing continuously. Suddenly people stopped coming to work, people started leaving the city. We had a problem what to do honoring the commitments to creditors, employees, statutory, etc., etc., etc. So it was a shock, and the reality faced. And a leader in this situation had to take a call. Okay. So what you have to do is reconfigure your organizations and examine what you will do in such a situation. So my response is that you have to look at your commitments, you have to look at your cash flow, and you have to have a sense of caution, because everything is important. You need to manage multiple things. It's not just managing cash flow or managing commitment or prevent the damages. It's a multitask activity. So what are the challenges and commitments we have? If you see here, an organization has a commitment to multiple stakeholders. Number one is the customers. Number two is employees. Number three is statutory government. Fourth is investors. Fifth is the society. And sixth are the vendors. Now, what I have tried to put here is that each of your stakeholder is dependent on you to various degrees. And if you see, your customer is never 100% depend on you, but employees are 100% dependent on the company. Government is not dependent on only one company. Some investors are 100% dependent, some are not. Society and vendors are also not 100% dependent on the company. We need to keep in mind that who is dependent to what degree on our company. The next thing is the cash flow. I think most organizations, I would say, during crisis have worried about cash flow. And rightfully, I think cash flow is important. Cash flow is like a blood flowing through your organization. Okay. In your body, blood flow is important. In an organization, cash flow is important. It affects every stakeholder to a different degree. I think we know what it means by that. I'm not going to dwell more on it. Okay. How you manage your cash flow decides the management belief in fiscal management. Generally, a company which has been good in fiscal management will have minimum pressure of cash flow. Companies which have over-leveraged themselves, I think they will have biggest problem with cash flow. And I hope that the companies which are well managed by a good leader will never be over-leveraged. And therefore, cash flow problem should be relatively manageable, because you cannot overnight enhance the cash flow. So if you have not managed cash flow during good times, probably your pressure will increase and you deserve to do that. Okay. So my feedback is that if you have managed your cash flow during good times, your problem is relatively small during Corona crisis. Okay. And then what are the cautions we take? I think we need to protect and preserve the business health and business vision. The first important thing I would do is think strategic and long term. I would not be a short-term tactical thinker. Now, what is short-term tactical thinker? Cut budgets, delay payments, reduce staff, etc., are all short-term decisions. I think a good strategic leader would not think short-term. We have to see long-term, because we are going to be in business tomorrow. Any action we take today must have continuity in future, and therefore strategic thinking is very important. Do not rush to make a decision. Thinking slow is more important than thinking fast. I think this is a famous theory by Nobel Prize winner. Thinking slow, thinking fast. Second important thing for every leader is under no circumstances he will compromise the goodwill of a company. Again, it's a long-term thinking. You do not panic. Don't take decisions which affects the goodwill of a company. And the last thing is protecting tangible and intangible assets. I think the tangible asset is what I mean by is your material, your plant, your goods, your assets, and your intangible assets are your people, your know-how, the skills of people, etc., etc. What do I mean by think strategic? As I said, that understand the issue and its complexity. Do not rush to make decision. Get data oriented. Okay? Please get your team together and get them involved in decision making. Okay? Keep your ear to the ground and pick up the pulse of the market. You may have to take series of small decisions, not necessarily one big decision. Okay? And prepare alternate scenario to plan within regulation. Always plan scenario B, scenario C, because you do not know how long this is going to continue. Again, I think most of us would have gone wrong. None of us expected this to last for 8 months. And unless we would have prepared a scenario, we would be in panic today. So I think important thing is to prepare alternate plan, scenario B, scenario C. And the most important is focus on safety and prevention. I think safety of your people was most important thing. Safety of your goodwill was most important thing. Not necessary plant and machinery. Nothing would have happened to your plant and machinery. Virus does not damage your asset like plant and building and machinery. Talks. It affects your people and their morale. So I think you must be thinking more about things which gets affected by virus, and that is what it means. Okay. Your tangible assets are relatively protected by themselves. I wouldn't have lost my sleep, except if there are perishable goods, I would do something. If something is affected by temperature or humidity, I would make arrangements for that. Otherwise, your raw material, your finished goods, your plants and machinery, generally you could have assumed safe. Monsoon season was likely to come. You could have done some monsoon protection. Make sure that monsoon and humidity doesn't affect your plant and machinery. Your land and building generally would be safe if proper care is taken. It was not a big issue for any manager. Real asset, according to me, was your intangible human resource. Actually, what I have said is human source, because I believe that human beings are not resources. That is a source of your company's strength. Human being is an organic living. It can evolve every single day. And the challenge for a company was to keep this human source extremely protected and motivated. People and their experience are very, very, very important for a company. How do you make sure that they have positive mindset, they're emotionally okay, physically okay, so that you protect your experience? A good taking care of people builds a good organic culture, good organization culture. And therefore, in a crisis, it is the community which protects. An organization is like a city, village, a community. And therefore, it was very, very important to make an organization culture which is supporting all the employees, each other. Whatever it means, I think it was very, very, very important from my perspective. And finally, managing people is a key thing to maintain team synergy. It is always team synergy which transforms the organization and brings about absolutely unthinkable performance. So I emphasize that the biggest challenge as a leader for me would have been, how do I keep my people extremely motivated, positive, continuously learning, continuously connected, and do not feel insecure. Providing security to employee was my most important recommendation as a leader today. What I said here is people are the most precious asset. They need protection. People are source and resource. All those things I said earlier is again in this side. I think people are more powerful than artificial intelligence. Collectively, they have more capacity to transform the organization. And therefore, single most precious one thing for me in crisis was, how do I keep my people extremely motivated, extremely charged, self-learning, sharing with each other. This was the single most thing I found was necessary for a leader. There are finance manager who will manage cash flow. There are plant manager who will manage the security of plant. As a leader, I should have emphasized on only one thing, and that is protecting my people, their morale, their motivation. That is what I mean by precious one. So, picking up from a very famous book called The Art of War, it says that treat your man as you would your own beloved sons, and they will follow you into the deepest valley. I strongly believe that the organizations which has taken care of employees during this crisis of corona war will come out absolute winner when the times are right. You have no idea that how grateful for every one employee keep happy. There are 5 or 10 others in their neighborhood, in their family, get motivated. There are positive sentiments about society. And therefore, to me, the single most thing I would have focused during this crisis was taking care of my people, their learning, their motivation, and their security. So friends, here is where I end my presentation, and I hope you have gone some alternate view from me, and I hope some of you get a chance to take care of your people. It's still not late. Please take care. You very much.
Sir, it is our privilege to, definitely, yes, sir. It is our privilege to have you here, and it's not an alternate view. It is one of the biggest view that we can have from you, sir. And what a great way to conclude a presentation with a very great saying from a great philosopher, from a great strategist. He said what he said years back is even relevant right now, and it will be much more relevant in future. So, sir, all I can say that it is our privilege to have you, and you have taken some time out from your schedule to enlighten us. And one humble submission that I have to do right now is that we we are totally just in a I mean we cannot ask for more in this and we definitely time has limited us, and we should have much more time to hear both from you and Mr. Yadugiri, sir. It is just because of the time that we have to conclude this thing. Otherwise, it would have been great hearing you more. The second important thing that I have learned in this, in both your presentation and Yadugiri sir's presentation, is that we we at times get complacent, we get fearful about future, about present, but it is through the common inspiration, it is the inspiration and taking from each one of us. If we inspire each other, if we keep each other motivated, we can definitely surpass any crisis, not just the COVID crisis. And one important leadership aspect that is very aptly highlighted today is two examples. Uh, you gave one example of a book, Return from Punjab, and Yadugiri sir again mentioned one another book, which is Trusted Advisor. So it is one of the greatest leadership quality that any leader, any great visionary leader is a very avid reader. He connects to, uh, he reads a lot and try to get as much information, as much knowledge from the books. That is one of the aspect of visionary leadership. And one of the another learning from Mr. Yadugiri's presentation is that he has very beautifully shown what is what is trust. So that formula, which appears to be a mathematical formula, it is much more than a mathematical formula. It reflects a life, and he has very aptly given us a term which is courageous authenticity. And this term is very apt and very practical and very relevant in each and every person, not just in an organization, not just in his professional field, but also in his day-to-day life. So definitely we have to inculcate such habits and such qualities which lead us to courageous authenticity, belief in ourselves. And one another very important aspect that he has highlighted, that we all are very much fearful about the future, how the future will be. Technology, as he has highlighted, is changing very drastically, very fast. So he has mentioned that in 3 months time, something which we have learned now, in 3 months time it will be a old thing. And but he has given a way out of that also. He has suggested that to leverage the team's strength and your strength is the combination that definitely will help us in dealing this situation, in dealing any situation which is very great, and which is very in a way which is bigger, and we have to tackle in our day to day and even in strategic terms. So these are the two important things that we have with us from Mr. Yadu Girish. Another important thing from your presentation that is worth emulating is, sir, the precious one. So we have so many things, so many constraints, so many possibilities, so many things going around us, but we need to focus on precious one, and that precious one is our people. And how to keep your people motivated, that is a single biggest task in front of a leader, in front of a visionary leader, that he has to answer. He has to take his people. So with this, sir, uh, I would really thank you on behalf of the entire VLFM community, and I definitely feel that uh, people who have joined, they must have had some great inspiration, some great learning from this interaction.